Good afternoon. This is Rich Nelson with Allendale. We have a special report update here. Today is July 11th of 2013. Of course, USDA gave us some numbers on a monthly supply-demand update, and most of these changes here today were simply incorporating those reports from the end of June. Number one, the grain stocks report, which suggested tightening supplies of corn and for the old crop period, and new crop changes were only made as far as acreage. On the corn specifically, USDA did drop old crop stocks from 769 million bushels last month down to around 729. That actually was expected and therefore was not a surprise for the trades movement here. For new crop, now let's be very clear here, guys, USDA does not make acreage changes on the July report. They simply incorporate what was shown on the June 28th acreage survey. So those changes did suggest higher planted acres, which many of our producer clients were angry about, but keep in mind the harvested numbers actually showed a net decline. And USDA made that incorporation on today's numbers. So lower harvested acres, and they kept yield unchanged. That's very much in line with what USDA normally does on a July supply-demand report. So a small decline as far as the whole new crop production picture here, but the surprise that we saw was that USDA actually lowered net demand for new crop at the same time. Therefore, we had a net increase in new crop stocks. We went from 1.949 billion bushels to now 1.959 billion bushels. Anything close to 2 billion bushels is ridiculously oversupplied. So USDA sent a very clear message as far as corn right now that even if you lower production in the coming months due to a slight adjustment on acreage, which will come on the October report, and maybe to yield, which keep in mind 20% of our growing area in the U.S. is seeing some problems with the current forecast. Even if you make those adjustments in the next report, you still cannot make a bullish argument here yet, possibly getting stocks down to 1.7 billion or so. Keep in mind, anything over 1.6 is considered oversupplied, and certainly as we are closer to 2 billion bushels, that's considered very much an avalanche of supply. As far as the soybean side here, let's go ahead and point out that USDA did not make any changes for old crop stocks. While we certainly do think that will come, USDA went ahead and passed the buck for another month or so. Looks like they're going to wait until this new crop supply is further verified before they reveal how tight this old crop actually is. On the new crop supply issue, you guys will remember from the acreage report that we had a net increase in acres for both planted and harvested from the March survey. As that was incorporated into numbers, and they did not change yield, which they normally don't on July reports, we did see a net increase in production. And USDA went down the line, kept all the new crop demand numbers unchanged, which was a little bit of a surprise here, and therefore we saw a net increase in new crop stocks from 265 to now 295 billion bushels. So they passed the buck on old crop, and also they didn't make any new crop demand changes. Two very clear signs that USDA is passing the buck as far as recognizing tight supplies. The net message here is large supplies still coming down the pipeline for new crop soybeans. Now, if you want to find a bullish argument, it certainly was found on the wheat side this morning. From that grain stocks report at the end of June, we mentioned that will be the new numbers for the old crop stocks number. So we did see a slight revision lower in what's considered old crop stocks for wheat. USDA also did some pretty exciting changes as far as new crop issues. While they did actually recognize a higher production for winter wheat, which most of the trade was expecting a slight decline. That sounds bearish, but it was far overshadowed by what they did with exports. We all know about these very big export sales we've had here recently, and USDA did recognize that with a very large 100 million bushel increase for new crop wheat exports. So therefore, we actually saw a very low number for new crop stocks, only 576 million bushels. So certainly a clear issue on that end that wheat stocks are quite a bit lower than expected. On the world side, we also have to point out that they raised China's wheat import number from 3.5 million tons all the way up to 8.5 million tons. A very large one-month adjustment for normally conservative USDA. So net message for today's report, this is certainly not one here for the bulls. However, as we're seeing as far as the current trade focus, based on these weather issues, weather forecasts, and current models. The trade is more focused on weather right now than these numbers. If you have any questions regarding the report itself, markets, or marketing in general, feel free to give us a call here at Allendale. Our number is 1-800-262-7538.